Good morning, and thank you for joining Resilient You with Alicia Pisani. Every week, we have different guests come on the show and talk about different things around resilience. And today, we have Mary Catherine Lundquist. Mary Catherine and I are going to talk about something that is a matter that's dear to my heart, especially since I had a recent birthday. I turned 50. We all have different milestones in our life, and it makes us think of different things. We know that resiliency is the ability to recover from challenges and recover from major traumatic events. And aging, I think, is one that might sneak up on us, either on our own experiencing the aging process or through our parents and loved ones experiencing the aging process. Mary, I want to welcome you to our show.
Thank you, Alicia. I'm so happy to be here and to have the opportunity to talk with you on this topic.
I am so fortunate as well. Now, we connected through the Rutgers-University Behavioral Health services, I'll say, because my mother was aging with dementia and needed to be, after I couldn't care for her any longer, she was placed in a senior living. And so that's how we connected years ago. Why don't you give our listeners a little bit experience? I know in the past you were a mental health counselor, and you've done a lot since then.
Yes, Alicia. Thank you. We work at the COPSA Institute for Alzheimer's disease and related disorders, and we offer lots of good services for people as they are getting older. Unfortunately, one of the many diseases that many people do get as they do get older, they develop problems with their brain and with their memory. So they might get diseases like Alzheimer's disease, or they might have a vascular dementia like a stroke, or Lewy body disease, or Parkinson's disease. Any of those things can impact the brain. So our program is there to support people so they can get the right treatment, the medical treatment that they need. And then we're also there to support the whole family as they're dealing with all of these issues related to aging. So we have a wonderful helpline where if you are caring for someone who is older and you're concerned about them, you can call us on the telephone and get one-on-one support, talk with somebody who's been there and done that. They've supported other aging family members in their lives, and they have professional experience, and they're there to really help you cope and to help you care for your family member who needs assistance, but then also to help you take care of yourself as well. So this is a topic that we talk about a lot in the community. We go to senior citizen centers, we go to groups of younger people, and we educate them on issues related to aging. Because if we get in the right mind frame and if we start to think about aging in a different way, it can really set us up for success as we do get older. So we can continue to have the life that we want to have, where we have a good quality of life and we're doing the things that we want to do, despite challenges that we may naturally face as we get older.
That sounds wonderful. I think that's what we all aspire to. And, I know that in everything that I've been through in my life, and one of them is dealing with an aging parent, it was so brand new, and you might have some information or some connections on how to handle things, but it's not easy, I'll say, to realize that us ourselves are aging, right? So like I took care of my mother for years. I was able to help her to an extent, and then I needed more help, so I was able to get that help, and that was good. But then in dealing with the loss and then just the aging process, like turning 50 and realizing, okay, I know I need to prepare for retirement, right? The financial side, and I know I need to eat well and exercise, but I realized that I was feeling tired. So all my life I was able to stay up late and get everything done that I needed to do. In my aging process, I'm finding that I am not as I don't have as much energy as I did before. And so, I guess it hits everyone a little bit different, and that's one of the things that I was hoping to talk to you about. How can we prepare for the aging process mentally, right? It could be overwhelming. And then, of course, I'm sure that you have some suggestions on how we can build a foundation to help us move forward.
Yes, yes, definitely. So the first place where I like to start is for us to think about how we even think about aging. Sometimes we think about it and we think negative, loss, my life is over. And that's something that we want to open up the window and we want to throw that out the window. Okay. So many wonderful things happen to people as they age. People gain so much as they age. So we really want to be celebrating aging. Hey, if you get to live to be 80 or 90 years old, how wonderful is that, right? So many people don't get to live to be that old. So we want to think about the positive things. Oftentimes in our society, look at our culture, right? Spend $100 on this aging cream or start to take this pill so your hair will stop falling out. We're constantly bombarded with messages that it's not good to get older, and we want to prevent that from happening to us. So, but we all know from the moment we're born, we are on the aging continuum, right? We are all aging, and many good things happen. Yes, we might get some wrinkles. We might start to develop some problems with our vision or our hearing, or mobility might start to be an issue. But hey, lots of good things happen. So let's think about those things. We gain so much knowledge, right? The older we get, the more we learn because of everything that we've experienced and everything that we've gone through. So that's a wonderful thing. And we gain wisdom as we age. So thinking about our perceptions about aging and kind of checking those and having some alternative positive thoughts about aging can really help us reduce our fears about getting older, and it can help us engage in practices to set us up for success as we do get older.
Yeah, one of the jokes I always make is, well, it's better than the alternative, meaning that, I'd rather age than die, right? Because it's one or the other. And it's true in a lot of the shows that I've had, people have techniques. Like the experts come on, they have techniques. And so I love this to change your thinking about aging, to limit those, exposure to those negative thoughts that we're getting, those messages from online and on everywhere, right? When you turn around, we can revel in the fact that we are gaining knowledge, wisdom. We're maybe having more money, advanced stages of our career. We're able to earn more, and even friends. We have a lot more friends because we've been through a lot and done a lot more. So that's definitely a great first step to change our thinking. And to celebrate how wonderful it is. I love that. Thank you, Mary Catherine.
Yeah, and even think about people who you know in your life, like who are your role models. That's a good thing for us to kind of pay attention to ourselves. Maybe you have some people in your neighborhood or your faith community or from your own family, and they really aged well. They were in their 80s and they were volunteering and they were, out gardening or traveling or doing things like that. There are lots of people in our world who are aging well. So it's good for us to kind of pay attention to their stories too, and to look at what they're doing that helps them, with their mindset so they can have the life that they do want. And then on the other side of that too, stop and reflect on the people who who aren't aging well. And it's not always necessarily the people who are 90 or even the people who are 86. There are some people in their 60s who aren't aging well, and they have a very negative attitude about where they are in life, especially when they do have obstacles or challenges. There are some people who are in their 80s and they live like they're in their 60s because they just have that vibrancy about them, and they have that hopefulness and that zest for kind of living and having new experiences and contributing to the world too. So sometimes the number of our age, our chronological age, isn't really the great predictor of how well we're aging. It's more our mentality and our thought about our situation as well.
Yeah, that's so true. That reminded me as you were talking, I remembered a neighbor that I have, and I saw her at a community picnic, and and we talked, and then I saw her again after that, and I didn't realize it was the same person because she was sitting at the picnic, and then here she's driving, but she got out of her car slowly, but she was fully present in her mind. And when she told me she was 95 and still driving and still gardening and still seeing her best friend every year on their birthdays, and all the things that she really was able to, I never would have guessed it, that she was 95. Now when I pass her house, I look and I'm in awe of her, because she was boastful when she said her age, and it made me think, I want to be like her. I want to, instill in my kids that, hey, you don't have to be like the one uncle they had, which was just, he got grumpier the more after his retirement. I thought, oh, he'll be happy because he was, in retirement, not having to go to work every day, but it just got worse and he became more and more grumpy. And yeah, that's not the image that we want to project. So,
Right.
yeah, it's
Right.
important for our listeners.
So it's good to think about the people who you do know and say, who do I want to model myself after?
Right, right.
And think about your your relative who did get grumpier, and think about what may be some reasons that he was grumpier.
Mm,
For some people, having pain can really contribute to a poor mood for them. So maybe he had physical things that he wasn't tending to. And you also mentioned he retired and you thought he might be happier. For lots of people, when they retire, they lose their purpose in life. And that's something that's very important for all of us, no matter how old we are. We want to feel like we're valued in society and that we have something to offer people and we have a reason to get up in the morning. Even though sometimes people complain about their jobs, it really gives you structure and it gives you meaning, knowing that you have to show up, do things, you're going to get rewarded for that with your paycheck. You have a real value in society. So that is a challenge for many of us as we do get older, when we lose the job, when we, give it up voluntarily, or sometimes older people, are the first to let go because they get paid more money. It's easier to kind of hire a younger person as well. So, but when we do have a change in our work status, that's really important for us to all pay attention to that time in our lives. And when we lose that one thing that was so important to us, what can we put in the place of that work? Maybe there's a hobby that you really want to get engaged in, something that you didn't have time to learn or to practice while you were working. Or maybe you want to travel or volunteer. There are so many organizations out there now that are just hungry for people to come and help, stocking the shelves at a food pantry or going to help at a community garden so the food can go to children in an inner city. So many ways for us to volunteer as well. So it's important for us to think about that for ourselves. When we do stop working, we want to maintain our sense of purpose in this world and that we are contributing somehow. And if you are supporting an older adult in your life, maybe some of our listeners here today have parents who they are supporting, to help your parents find other avenues to be engaged in their community and be engaged in their world, that can really have a positive impact on your feelings about yourself and your value on this earth.
Yeah, and I imagine it's difficult, right? Because a lot of us have our parents who maybe the father worked and the mother stayed at home, and they had their circle of friends or their, game nights or whatever they had. But then if let's say one parent passes and then they're left, alone, that's somehow it's really difficult to sometimes connect these people with those services or get them engaged. And I know that there's senior centers. There's a lot of different groups that are available to seniors, and even online. One of the things that I encountered recently with when I was promoting my book, Emotional Strength Explained, I had a woman who said, "I need new friends. Can you help me with that?" And I said, "Well, the book will walk you through, because it's prompted and it lets you write down whatever challenge you're facing, and then it takes you through what might be a healthy lifestyle or a better, better choices, different things." It's a nice book that's really available, and it's helpful for anyone. So I told her that, it would help, and it was really good that she was, had that insight to hear that she had friends, but they were all wanting to stay at home, and she wanted to go out and do things. She wanted to get involved. And so she liked gardening, and, I did mention that she should get involved with her senior center. Do you know, Mary Catherine, are there any other ways that seniors can, put their toe in the water, and get involved without...
Right. Yes, another one that many of our seniors have been talking about recently are meetups. Have you ever heard of meetups? It's like an online forum where you can go and you choose an activity that you would like to do, and then it connects you with other people who are also interested in that activity in like your geographical area. So, for instance, I know there are some in a lot of our people go to, and this is especially true like maybe after their spouse died, so now they're home alone by themselves, and it's the same thing that your friend mentioned. She wants to meet other people. How do you meet other people if you're not going to school, or if you're not at a job? So one of these forums where you can kind of sign up for an activity, and we have some friends who go and they just have dinner every Monday night at a restaurant. So lots of people don't like to go out to eat by themselves, and they'd like to have someone to sit there and chat with too. So this is a way that a senior could go out and have a meal at a restaurant. So there are meetups for if you want to go see a Broadway show and you don't want to go by yourself. So it could be something like that. We have other friends who sign up because they love nature. So they might sign up for a meetup to go hiking. So all different things. There are other groups. There's another one where we have friends who go for a trivia night, that they'll meet at a local restaurant, and it's all different people. It might be people who are married, people who are single, people who are widowed, people who are divorced, and they're just looking for ways to increase their social contacts. So they go and they do trivia together, ask questions and answer questions. So that is a good way that you can find people who have similar interests that you do.
So, yeah, so I remember that meetup.com was one of them. I'm not sure if there's one specific for people, aged over 55 or anything, but that's really a great option. I know in our area they have walks that they take. There's certain trails in our area, and they do that as well. And then, yeah, that's a great option, great idea.
Another thing, Alicia, is lots of communities offer like senior learning opportunities.
Mm.
So even at the community college, they might have adult learning classes, and those are another great things to check out. So check out your local community college, because they might have a series, like maybe you're interested in photography or you would like to learn how to paint. Then you can go and sign up for a class and like learn a new skill, or develop your hobby, and then you're going to meet people as well. And sometimes there is an advantage to doing things where there are people of mixed ages and just not being all with older people. So I remember an older woman at a church that I used to go to. She told me that. She said, the secret is to always have people who are older than you being your friends, and people who are younger than you being your friends as well. You don't want them all to be the same age, because you can learn from the people who are older than you and who have, gone through things, because you get their wisdom. And then younger people, you see a whole different perspective, and they, can just be there to maybe kind of assist you too when you are a little bit older, and then you need some assistance. You can learn from them too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. One particular church that we were involved in, it was really like that. People would come on Wednesday nights for an additional service, and it was more intimate. But there was a 18-year-old who befriended a woman who was a little bit, aged herself, and her husband passed away. And it was him that went and helped her with her groceries in those early days. It was just so nice to be able to see that connection and just know that that really helped her through that tough time. And it helped him because he was far from his parents. So it gave him a sense of, feeling good about himself. So that's, thanks so much for bringing that up. And about the classes, that's something else that, sometimes they have the flyers that come from your county, or like the community colleges that you mentioned. They do have those courses in there. And sometimes they're a nominal fee. So, hopefully that's not an issue for people with the issues with the money. But again, it doesn't hurt to open your mind. Life, I think, is a journey, and we're always learning. If we're open to it, we're always learning, and I think that's going to help to keep us young and resilient, so that we can feel good despite what things come our way, right? If it's our hearing or our vision, different things affect us. Whatever's happening, it's really our mindset that's going to help us to keep us moving forward. So
Right, yeah, and Alicia, there are things we can do when we're younger to help get our mindset in the right place. So then we're going to be able to weather whatever challenges we're going to face in the future. So, and mindfulness is a big thing that we talk about that can be very helpful for all of us, no matter how old we are. And we oftentimes we think of mindfulness and we think, oh, that sitting down and meditating for an hour with my eyes closed, sitting cross-legged on the floor. That is one way of being mindful, of practicing mindfulness. But mindfulness is just really being aware of what's going on around you and kind of tuning into that, and tuning into that in a non-judgmental manner. So, and that's a practice that we can engage in no matter how old we are, and just being aware of where we are and what's going on. And why is that important? It's important because sometimes when something happens that is challenging for us, we get like hyper focused on that negative stimuli that we're experiencing, right? Or of the challenge. And that's all that we're thinking about, and that's all that we're looking about. And we get such tunnel vision on that sometimes we're less aware of the other things that are going on in our lives, which are also supportive of us at the same time, and which are also can help us cope with the challenge that we're going through. So if we check in with ourselves, if we're mindful of what is going on with us at the moment, and we're stopping just to pause, to check in with ourselves, to see how we feel, to see what we notice, sometimes that can open up the door so we can expand our vision, and that can help us get a different perspective on what we are going through, which can help us find better solutions to whatever challenge we might be experiencing.
Yes, that is wonderful. And I do that too. Being grateful, pausing and just being grateful, whether the sun is shining or the earth is getting rain or something, in my everyday life. I always make a point to do that. I try and teach my kids the same thing, because in today's world, everyone is so busy and focused. Even you may wake up and turn on the news or check your phone or your tablet, your device, and you're in go mode from the start. And so taking that pause, taking that, time to check in with yourself, how do you feel, what is going on around you, definitely does help to give you that nice place to be able to react more calmly when something happens. So that's, thank you for that perspective. So listeners, if you are not aware of that technique of mindfulness, there's many things available to you online to learn how to be mindful. You can check, I have a blog that's out there too, www.aliciapizzani.com. There's one that I really like. It's 100 Ways to Let Go of Stress. And some of these are mindfulness tips as well, where you're going to do something intentionally to remain calm and give yourself that needed pause to reset. So if I have a friend who is recently retired, she is facing some health challenges, and she's having to really look at herself in a new light. What kind of advice might you give to her?
Well, I would say it's great that she's aware of what's going on for her physically, definitely, and to pay attention to that and to start to take care of those physical things. And in addition to the physical things, like to do an assessment of other areas in her life. Like, is she happy with where her social life is right now? How is she feeling about her mental health? How is her mood? Does she find that she has more days where she's feeling really down and overwhelmed or depressed? If so, we have to treat that just as we would any, physical problem that we might have with our arm or our leg. We're going to go to the doctors and we're going to try to get that to be better. We want to have that same attitude about our emotional and our mental health. We want to make sure that we're getting the supports that we need so we can be well on all accounts.
Yeah, because I noticed that when things start to happen, it's not just one thing, right? It's like three things happen all at once, and the next thing you know, we're feeling down because we're old and we're aching and we're hurting. And I sneezed yesterday, and this is a real thing that happened, Mary Catherine, I have to share. Yesterday I'm at work, I'm working, everything's fine. I sneeze and I feel the arthritis in my back that has set in. Well, it's not a visible thing. No one can see this, but it causes me discomfort and pain. So I got a standing desk. Well, luckily I was able to stand and continue working. But it stayed with me. And I was kind of having a little pity party. I was feeling sad because I'm getting older and I have to face this, right? And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. A lot of people who are, they've had a healthy lifestyle, they've, stayed physically fit, they've been energetic, it's even out on the West Coast, I know a lot of people are not dealing with aging well. So again, we can learn from every good piece of advice you're giving us in terms of trying to reframe our mindset, to build that foundation, from which we can advance.
Right. Yeah, and that's a really good example, Alicia, that you sneezed, you felt it in your back. So you paid attention to yourself. You tuned into that message that you got from your body, right? And then what did you do? You responded. You tried something to kind of alleviate that pain and improve your work posture by using your standing desk. Right? So, and that's really a good example for all of us, is just to pay attention to whatever crops up for us, wherever it crops up. If it crops up somewhere in your body, that's a message, and then you can act on it. You can reach out to the right people who can support you with that. If it's like a, muscular skeletal thing, I've had like a problem with my arm, like I finally got myself to the doctor, got the x-ray, and now I'm going to physical therapy. So when we get pain in the body, it's a message that something isn't working right. So what can we do to kind of address that? And just as important, we want to think about our mental health as well. And for many of us, especially, when you're in those middle years of life and you're really busy, you're working, you're taking care of the kids, raising kids, involved in your community, maybe even you're supporting your parents as well, you might not have the luxury of having lots of extra time to kind of, take care of your mental health. You might be so stretched with everything that you don't have time for any one-on-one therapy or anything like that. So, maybe now, as we move, closer to a time where maybe things are slowing down a little bit, just pay attention to emotionally, how am I feeling? And many of us may have experienced challenging things earlier in our lives. We might have some past trauma that, now that we're at a different space in life, it might be the time for us to look into that a little bit more, or to kind of get a little care for ourselves, our surrounding things that we went through before, or even worries that we might have now related to our own lives or to things that other people are going through as well. So whenever you get a message from your physical body, from your mental health, from your spiritual side, it's just a message. So accept that message and then think about, what can I do to kind of address this issue that now I'm aware of with myself.
So, so when we are stretched and we're doing too many things, caring for others and taking, steps in our own life, we might feel overwhelmed. We should pay attention. We should get care, and really, take that time to tune in and respond, and then reach out for support if we need. It sounds really simple, but it's but it's not, right? Because it requires us to default from what we are doing normally, right, and do things differently. Maybe, one of the things that I found recently it was something that was written, and it was about healing the whole person, and I really like that because there's a lot of holistic solutions out there, and one of them is pet therapy. Like, my daughter wanted a kitten, and I constantly share whatever goes on in my little crazy life, but she wanted a kitten, and instead of one, we got two because I didn't want the one to be left alone. So we now have two kittens, which are probably 6 to 9 months old, and they are a handful. So they're requiring more work, but one of them really took to me, and so I really enjoy spending that time and caring for that pet. It's almost like when my kids were little and I was a parent giving back to them. Now I have this pet to kind of help me to feel better despite whatever else is going on. So, pet therapy, there's other ways that people, if they don't want to have their own pet, they can go and do visits at different shelters and different things to volunteer to help with caring for the pets as well. And then I know that if patients are in need, they do have agencies that will bring pets to you. So if you're caring for an ailing loved one or family member, you can reach out for some pet therapy also to come in to help with the person who's ailing.
Yes, that's wonderful. I love that. Pets are so therapeutic. I was recently at an outdoor caregiver fair, and you're not going to believe this. They had therapy chickens there.
How
So
wonderful.
I've never seen that before. I said, this is the first time I've ever seen this, but it was great to be around a chicken. They had three of the workers there were going around holding the chickens, and then we watched them run around. I felt so much better just watching the chickens. So,
That's funny. That's right. We had a chicken that was a nice, friendly chicken at a farm, and they let us pet it. And I couldn't believe how soft they were. How nice and fluffy and soft. But it's true. I mean, there's so many solutions out there that we're not necessarily aware of when we're caring for a spouse, and then the spouse passes away. So now what? Right? So we talked about maybe getting some art, some photography, some painting lessons. Maybe, you can do some, this list that I'm looking at, it has Reiki and massage. It has aromatherapy and gazing therapy. And that's when you take in sense or visually focus on an object or image that's soothing or meditative. That's something you could do right from your very own house, wherever you are living.
right, right.
Then there's spiritual care. So, that's if you have a faith, tradition, or culture, you might reach out for some care from someone in a senior level. I also see there's boutique services. If you need, hair, wig, or makeup services, you can, reach out for some of that. I know myself, I'm not big on facials or massages or anything, but I know some people really love that. And then there's a couple other things, music and singing. So you can take advantage of live performances, recordings, and even lessons. You never know what kind of calming sounds you might take advantage of. And then there's meditative coloring, cooking demonstrations, and special events such as art festivals. I know myself, when I go to music events, I feel like I'm 20 again. So I think it's important for everyone to be mindful of those things that will help heal the whole person, come back renewed.
Right. Yeah, and then also to be open, because maybe music wasn't something that you really enjoyed a lot when you were younger, but maybe, as you move into the next decade, it might be something that you really enjoy now. So, to take that risk and to try something that maybe you were reluctant to before, because it might wind up being a very positive thing in your life as well.
Wow.
So, and then another really important thing too, Alicia, that I want to mention is that as we think about getting older and we want to age gracefully, right? And we want to have a great quality of life no matter how old we are, it's good for us to think about what our risk factors are. So, and this is where it will come in, am I at risk of getting heart disease, or what is my risk for getting diabetes or osteoporosis? Because those things really can impact our quality of life as we do get older. So when you're younger, it's great to be thinking about those things. Go to your doctor and they'll take the family history and they can let you know what your risk is and they can monitor you. And then you can start to, from a young age, start to engage in a healthy lifestyle that can help you prevent from developing heart disease or diabetes or osteoporosis. So sometimes it's all those things we do when we are younger that really set us up for success as we're older. So, and another thing would be to think about things like cigarettes, like, do I smoke? There are risk factors, for our health, our breathing health as time goes on. So think about that, like, how can I reduce or eliminate that in my life? Or am I using alcohol or other recreational drugs to help me cope with the stresses that I am feeling? We know that there can be really long-term negative impacts on our brains and the rest of our bodies when we are using those substances. So really to look into that and to find good ways, ways that are supportive of our whole body health for coping with stress, that helps set us up for success as we age as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. When I last year, when I started having this back pain and different things, I thought, oh, they'll tell me to go to physical therapy. Well, I was shocked because I did tell them about my own health history. I was shocked to find out that I was in the running of the osteoporosis. Well, I guess I still think of myself as young. Like this number 50, it snuck up on me, and so I don't want to get overwhelmed by all of these things that I should do now. But I appreciate you reminding us of this, because if we don't do it, the alternative could be far worse, right? Like if I don't start doing my strengthening exercises, I could end up with a lot more pain and stiffness and lack of mobility a lot sooner.
Right, 100%. So, and a lot of, we all experience those challenges because we all have so much to do, right? And oftentimes, I know this is true for my own life, I put myself last. I make sure that everybody at my job is taken care of, my family, my dog, they're all fine, my house is fine, but, I'm not doing what I should do for myself. So that's a wake-up call for all of us, is that we need to give ourselves some attention so we can be well for the long haul. Because maybe if we address these things when they pop up earlier, they won't turn into chronic conditions. We can really resolve them and find ways that they're not going to impede our quality of life going forward.
Okay, so listeners out there, act with intention and put yourself first so that you can be resilient as you age. These are all wonderful things. Mary Catherine is helping us to build that foundation as we age. I started thinking of this episode as aging gracefully. So, but I don't think that was quite what we were targeting. We were trying to shoot for being resilient as we age. So, risk factors. Now, one of the other ones you mentioned was fostering social connections. Loneliness and social isolation are just as dangerous as smoking, for example. That's another point that you noted down. What can we learn about that risk of? I know being alone in good quantities is wonderful for people, but it's that fine line when you become lonely, and it affects everyone a little bit differently. How can we help to keep out of trouble with loneliness?
Right, yeah, and you're right, it's different for everybody. Some people like to be around a lot of people and that kind of makes them feel happy. Some people don't like to be around a lot of people. It's really anxiety provoking for them. So it's kind of a subjective thing. But the more we're socially isolated, the greater our risk of interpreting that social isolation as loneliness. So it's good for you to check in with yourself. And if you are feeling lonely, to take one small step to increase your social connection in a way that's meaningful for you. For some people, it might be going to a party, where they're going to be with a lot of other people. That might make them feel really good. For other people, it might be just going out for lunch to have a one-on-one conversation with a friend. That might be good for them as well. So there's so much more research being published now on the dangers of social isolation. And we've really seen that with the recent pandemic and how socially isolated our seniors have been. And it's been really detrimental to their mental health. So it's important for all of us to keep tabs on that and to help ourselves have avenues where we can have meaningful interactions with people at the frequency that feels the best for us. And if you are supporting older people in your life, to help them get access to that too. Especially maybe if you are older and you've opted not to drive anymore, you might not want to burden your family members to ask them to take you to the senior center or to take you to, another event somewhere. So to really help your older family members find ways to get around so they can go and connect with people as well. Or if you are a younger person, even like, if you have a grandchild in the family, can you help your older family member get hooked up with a computer that's easy enough for them to use so they can get on and Zoom with people? Lots of senior citizen centers are still doing, virtual programming. So you can join tons of things as far as that goes. But that's something for us all to keep tabs on for ourselves. Because especially as we get older, that does change too. Especially I know for myself, when my kids were younger, all your friends seemed to be the parents of your kids, who were that age. And once your kids get older and they move out of the house, sometimes friends move away. You find yourself, boy, I don't have that many friends left here anymore. So it's important for us all, no matter how old we are, to kind of always be working on establishing new social contacts.
Right. And I know that as people age, their friends may pass away, and I notice that they talk about, oh, I'm the last, or the three of us were the remaining, three musketeers or whatever, or even your siblings or your family, like of the cousins, it's when you get to be that age, you have to really replenish your, social friendship with not just your same circles, right? Find other things that you can get involved in. That's wonderful to help with the dangers of social isolation.
Right. Yeah. Well, 100%. And just going back to something you said earlier, Alicia, about like aging gracefully. So, think about like steps that you're walking up steps, right? When we gracefully walk up the step, we just take one step at a time and we do it slowly, right? So we can use that to think about aging gracefully as well, instead of just like trying to jump over 4 or 5 steps, right? And that's something good for us to think about here. We've talked about a lot of things here today, right? So everybody doesn't have to go and switch up their whole lives or think, oh my goodness, I have to start doing 15 new things right away. Just think about maybe about one thing that really resonated with you from everything that Alicia and I talked with. Just think about that one thing that you might want to try, or one thing that you might want to give attention to, and make a plan to do that sometime this week or sometime next week or even this month. But just take one small step and commit to that and do that. And then when you're done with that step, then you can think about the next thing that's most important to you that would benefit your life and take that next step. So that is how we can age gracefully, is we just take one small thing, we make one small change, and then we build on that and we go up the next step. So kind of think about that. Like, I'm not just going to try to jump up 5 steps, I'm just going to take one step at a time. And that's going to help me age gracefully.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Mary Catherine, that age gracefully, like slowly walking up the stairs. That's what I just heard. And it's so wonderful to hear because it puts it in perspective, and each of us, no matter our age or our ability, I think that we can apply that to many areas of our life. Mary Catherine, we've learned so much today, and I really love the content of this show. I know that, we all want a full life that makes us happy, and one of the points that you mentioned is we can engage in activities that are meaningful for us, take care of ourselves, and have what we need to be well on all levels. And is that, I think that really just sums it up. The point of how we can take this foundation and build it no matter where we are. If we're 80, we can still do a lot of these things. And, as long as we do open up our mind to set ourselves up for something we may love.
100%. And even think about, too, a word that you mentioned earlier, too, which is so key. There's lots more research on this these days, too, is gratitude. By the time you're 85 or 90, have you had a lot of challenges? Yes. More challenges than a 25-year-old? Yes. But you also have a lot more that you can add to your list of things that you're grateful for. So, as we age and we do encounter challenges, we also encounter more things that we can be grateful for. And that's really where the gracefulness comes. It's kind of being present to the difficulties, meeting them head on and getting through them, reaching out to supporters to help us get through them, and at the same time, being grateful for what we do have and for what is going right and for the good things that are around us, even in the midst of the challenges that we might be facing as well.
Wonderful. So the only thing, Mary Catherine, we didn't talk about, I know, is the financial aspect, right? Because as we think about our process of our journey in our life, we need to plan for our future. So some of those things like the financial housing options, advanced care documents, power of attorney. These are all things that we might also want to do while we're thinking about quitting smoking and avoiding
osteoporosis. Right. Yeah. So you can add to the list there is to make sure, number one, you have all your legal documents in order. And for all of us, we should have a power of attorney. And that's for anybody who's 18 years of old and older. Even young people need to have a power of attorney. And that just means that someone will be there to take care of your affairs if you are unable to take care of them yourself. So it's good for you to consult a lawyer to do that. You can download some basic forms from some state and federal websites as well to have that, and to have an advanced care directive. That's something that's important for all of us too. And that's just a document that says what you would or would not want in the event that you wound up in, a debilitating condition. Would you want to be on life support? Would you want a feeding tube? So, and there are all wonderful documents out there that can kind of guide you through making these decisions as well. So that's a document that's very, very important. And then, to think about your finances. Sometimes we're kind of floored when we see those people posting about, oh yeah, if you put away like $25 every week, from the time you're 20 until, and then when you're wind up being 70, you're going to have like $1 million or something like that. Those numbers probably aren't right, but it just shows you that if you start to think early and make some small changes, that it accumulates and you can gather some wealth. So all of those things are really, really important. So, consulting a professional, someone who can give you advice on that. Or if you are working, oftentimes organizations offer webinars or seminars on planning for your financial future. Don't wait until you're 65 to go to those. Go to them when you're 25 or when you're, 30 or 40, so they can kind of help you think about a scenario that you might be in, and then you have a little bit more time to kind of help navigate your finances so you can have like a cushion when you are older.
So, yeah, and that's something that, at any age we may be in a certain position or not, but just also important to have awareness. If you have a sibling and they were the main wage earner, just be aware, make sure that, all of the things they said they had or thought they had were still in place. I'd hate to see someone lose everything just because of a mistake or something that they weren't aware of. So have awareness to understand what happens as you age and when you stop working, when you retire. Social Security is another thing that you may want to be mindful of. And I do have a contact for this, which Rico Dixon, he's going to join us in the coming months to talk more about end of life planning, I should say. But again, I know we might have to have a phase 2 on this aging with resilience to talk about all of that. But Mary Catherine, thank you so much. You've really enlightened us, given us a lot to think about, to make some small changes, to age gracefully. Just remember, listeners, to think about one thing that you might be willing to try this week, this month, and then commit to it. And once you've done that thing, then take the next step. You can age gracefully, just like slowly walking up the stairs. And just, Mary Catherine, I'll give you another opportunity. Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners?
I just want to thank everybody for being here, and thank you for stopping to check in with yourself and to see how you're doing and to learn more. Learning and reaching out and growing is such an important part of us all aging gracefully. So I wish everybody the best in their aging journey. And thank you, Alicia, for bringing this topic to the public as well. It helps us all have a better world. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Mary. And is there, you mentioned the COPSA Institute. Is that just in New Jersey?
It's in New Jersey. You can be a caregiver who's in New Jersey and your loved one can be in another state, or you can be in another state and your loved one can be in New Jersey. But if you are caring for anybody who has memory issues or older and you're not sure where to turn and you live anywhere, you can always call us at Care to Caregivers and we'll help put you in touch with people in your area who can support you. So do you want me to give the phone number or the web address or?
Yes, please.
Sure, it's 800-424-2494. Or you can check out our website, and it's www.care2caregivers.com. And it's CARE, the number 2, and then caregivers.com. So there are lots of great supports out there around our world to support people in having the best lives that they can as they get older, and we will help connect you with those.
That's right. That's right. And just one last thing: if you are caring for someone who is aging and their behavior isn't quite right, if they're confused or they're exhibiting, behaviors that are not normal to their baseline, you can always call, your 911. You can ask for a behavior check. I know that, it could be a physical thing, something with their brain. It could be a stroke. It could be something else psychological going on. But just keep it in mind that, don't just let it pass. If they're repeating themselves, if they're, if they fell down, and, it doesn't hurt to get it checked out, and it's, free. It might be uncomfortable and you don't want anyone to come into the home, and they certainly don't, but better to be safe than sorry. So just keep that in mind. You can call 911 for a behavior check if any behaviors are surfacing. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on Resilient You with Alicia Pisani. It's been a pleasure, Mary Catherine. Look forward to meeting with you again. And again, thank you so much for all the wonderful insight.
Thank you, Alicia.